Hey everybody, this is Jonathan with Enhance Yourself, and today we're going to be talking about food and how it can instantly change the quality of your life today and realistically alter the course of your destiny for your entire life. How important really is food? Can it really change how you feel right now, today? And is it really going to impact the course of your life and your destiny? Is it really that important? Now, maybe deep down, you know that it's true, but maybe you haven't actualized this. Maybe you're not taking action on it. So we're going to talk about that today. How can food instantly change how you feel? How can it change the course of your destiny? Now, we have to put the importance back onto food that it deserves because you're doing it every day, multiple times a day. The analogy that I like to use is that every single day you have a jar that contains all the time that you have in your life. And every single time you eat incorrectly, the Grim Reaper is stealing a little bit of that time away from you. That's the reality. You live way less years if you eat incorrectly. So imagine that. Really be conscious of it because we don't take action because the truth is not real to us. If you're not taking action and eating how you know you should deep down, and that's usually what the issue is, we don't have to talk too much about what to eat, what not to eat, although we will today because that's also very important. But you really have to see this as a very sacred, very ignored aspect of your well-being, and people really don't understand the correlation between what they ate and how they feel, how happy they are, how clear they are, how well they function, if they can remember things, if they're going to perform well, if they're going to sleep well. Because what you eat is the most intimate thing you can do because you're putting it inside yourself. It's becoming you. You are creating yourself with this food. You were this big, and then through the nutrition of your mother, you came out bigger, and then you were this big, and then you ate, and that's the only way you're this big. It's life-creating material, but we don't give it the significance that it needs. And we kind of brush it off like those little details don't matter. If I eat a little bit of stir-fried olive oil, that doesn't affect me. Everything affects you. If you eat packaged foods with preservatives, everything affects your consciousness, your state of mind, your happiness. It's very hard to be fully alive if you're eating wrong. So I want to paint a picture. Imagine everyone's walking on the path of life and everyone has so much amount of time. Now you're walking on this path of life. Now the Grim Reaper is following you. And based on what you do in your life, you slow down and he speeds up. If you do the wrong things, you slow down and he's speeding up and he's going to catch up to you before your rightful time, and he will take that sickle and he will sink it into a very unpleasant place. Now what should happen is you're going to walk on your path of life so swiftly that he never catches up to you and you can have a peaceful death. Death comes to us all, but we don't want to have a suffering death in a hospital for many years, miserable, creating literal hell for yourself. Unbelievable amount of suffering happens in these nursing homes. When people eat wrong and live wrong, not according to nature, they store up for themselves 30, 40, 50 years down the line, maybe even less than that, hell. Horrible retribution. And we don't attribute the significance that it needs to have. 50% of Americans are getting cancer every year. 1 in 2 are getting cancer. That's horrible. That is not a good way to go. There's something wrong with how we're eating. We eat very different from the rest of the world. We have a very different food industry, and we have to put such importance that every time you take a bite, you have to see it like it's a divine right. You have to see it like it's one of the most important things that you're doing. Not only what you eat, but how you're eating it. We'll get into that too. The first things first, it's so neglected. We have to fuel our bodies with the right fuel. If we're giving it the wrong fuel, it's going to choke and it's not going to function how it should. Now, there's so many opinions out there on this. People get overwhelmed and they just think, well, everything is just opinion based. Well, how about we just make it very, very simple? What if your own logic could just grasp a simple system, a simple logical system that will let you experiment, and your body itself will tell you, I feel alive. This is good food. You have to experiment. You have to be open-minded. Don't give up on the idea that you can't find a good food. Don't give up on the idea that you can't be fit and have a wonderful physique, a physique like a god. Never give up. Never think that it's too confusing. Never think that you can't do it. Never think, I tried everything. There's nothing out there. That's not true. It's very simple. It should be very simple. We've overcomplicated it, but I want to simplify it. If you look at any piece of technology, any machine that has been engineered, you can look at the anatomy to understand not only what it does, the physiology of it, but you can understand what it runs on if you understand the anatomy. Certain cars need different fuels than other cars. How do you know? You look at the anatomy of the engine. So let's look at us. Let's take a little adventure into our own anatomy. Let's use our logic. Let's return back to nature and simplicity to understand what we should eat. It shouldn't be hard. We're existing. This is the last thing we have to worry about. So let's make it simple. We don't have to read 100 books on this. So if you look at your anatomy, we have to look at the digestive system, because that's what happens when the food goes through you. So first part of the digestive system is your mouth. So to understand yourself, you have teeth, you have salivary glands. We want to understand what is made to consume, because you don't want to consume things that you're not made to eat. Now in nature, there's creatures that eat plants, there's creatures that eat both plants and flesh, and there's animals that eat just flesh. Which are you? Well, the only way that we can really know is by looking at the closest creatures to our DNA and looking at the attributes of our digestive system and comparing it to other creatures in nature. Because humans can do whatever they want. They can put the wrong fuel in the wrong machine and say, well, I think I should have the freedom to eat whatever I want. Well, you do. And you have the freedom to pollute a lake. You have the freedom to poison yourself too. Doesn't make the machine built for that fuel. So, looking at your digestive system, let's start with the teeth. Your teeth are made in such a way that they're flat, and you have molars, and they're not very sharp. We only have tiny incisors. Now, if we look at nature, this matches so much with animals that eat plants. These little incisors are so wimpy compared to in nature. This does not mean you should eat meat. Pandas and gorillas have large incisors, large canines, but they don't eat meat. It's made to chop through the starchy vegetables, the bamboo, the tough skins of potatoes and whatnot. Take a look at the image, and you choose. You choose. Now, you also have saliva. You're supposed to chew slowly when you eat food, so that part of the digestive process happens in your mouth. The saliva has an enzyme called amylase. Amylase digests starches. If you leave rice or a carbohydrate or a fruit or a vegetable in your mouth, it'll naturally digest and dissolve because the enzyme breaks down starches and carbohydrates in plants. Next, it goes into your stomach. Now, carnivores have very strong stomach acids because they want to break down that flesh very, very fast. In contrast, our stomach acid is not very strong. Moving along, look at the intestines to understand what kind of fuel you're supposed to have. Are we supposed to have fruits, vegetables, and plants moving through this, or meat? Well, if you look at a carnivore, the digestive system is made in such a way that the meat will move through it very quickly, because you don't want meat, dead flesh, a corpse, to sit inside yourself for very long. Why? It's a warm environment inside yourself. And when flesh sits in a warm environment, what happens? Decay, death, bacteria, little maggots. It's not a good thing. You don't want that inside yourself. So the carnivores will have a shorter alimentary canal, usually only 3 times its body length. Herbivores, they want the starches to go through a very long process so it can absorb everything out of it. And it can afford to go through a little bit slower. So they have relatively long small intestines compared to the rest of their body, usually 5 to 10 times the length of their body. Now, which category do you fall into? 3 times your body or 5 to 10 times your body? 5 to 10 times your body. So there's a clue right there. If you let a fruit sit outside in a warm environment, it doesn't rot. Vegetable doesn't rot. So you want to let food go through your warm system that won't create a bacterial insurrection that you'll have to fight and use a lot of your body's energy to break down that food. So when meat goes through your system, it takes about 3 days, up to 72 hours. That's not a good thing. That's causing inflammation, that's causing acidity. You have to fight all that bad bacteria. That's why the World Health Organization is linking consumption of meat on a linear fashion to disease, because inflammation in an acidic state in your body, that's not good for your body. That creates stress, and with stress there's a lack of ease for all the systems of your body, because it takes energy. Whenever you're at a lack of ease, when you have heartburn, when you have indigestion, when things aren't flowing smoothly, it creates inertia and you feel heavy and weighed down. Fruits only take about 3 to 4 hours to go through that entire process. Vegetables only take 6 to 8 hours. So the ease that things are moving through shows your body is liking it. It's saying, yes, this is easy for me to break down. And so you feel light and agile, and you feel a sense of energy, and you don't feel like sitting on the couch, and you don't feel this lack of motivation, and you don't feel this heaviness in your stomach, and you don't feel that bloated feeling when you try to bend over or even walk. You can eat until you're full. Plant foods, fruits, veggies, starches, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, all these whoosh go through your body, and you feel great. You feel light, even if you eat until you're full. But if you eat the wrong foods, heavy foods, oily foods, sugary foods, unnatural foods for your body, you won't feel that way. It'll create a certain death in your body that your body will have to work so hard to digest and break down. Interesting point. The more complex of food you put through your body, the harder your body has to work to churn that and break it down into its constituent molecules to reintegrate into yourself. That's why it's bad to eat human flesh, because it's so complex. It's the most complex organism on the planet. Your body struggles so hard to eat it, and the more complex the animal is, the worse it is for you to eat. That's why you want to eat very simple foods. It's easy for your body to break down. It goes straight through you. So it's also why fish is much easier for your body to break down, because of all the meat and all the animals that you could eat. Fish is the most basic. Very undeveloped brains and nervous systems, not many emotions, very simple creature. But if you go on to eat something like cow or pig, that's an intelligent creature. If you've ever understood or researched cows, they're very smart. They can solve puzzles. They have IQ. They have emotions. Cows will cry when something happens, like a person that they knew dies. He'll cry with the rest of the family. Pigs, if you're holding a pig, he's sniffing you. He's kind of like a dog. Pigs are not stupid. So when you eat these things, it's more complex. It's more difficult for your body to break down. So when you look at your anatomy, if you look at it honestly, you're going to see you're very much like an herbivore. This body, this system is designed to handle nuts, seeds, fruits, basically plant foods. And if you look at our closest ancestral DNA animals, the monkeys, the chimpanzees, the gorillas, they all eat almost 100% vegetables. They're so close to us. And they don't lack protein. They're strong. Everything that you need is in the plants. So, also, you want to just eat foods, logically speaking. Now that you've seen your anatomy, logically speaking, you can see what food is designed to eat. But one step further, logically speaking, don't you want to eat the foods that have the most nutrients? Don't you want the food to enhance your body, your mind? Don't you want it to strengthen you? So you want to eat the things that have the most life in it. So what nutrients does meat have? Very little. Traces. I'm not saying it doesn't have anything. In certain things you can find a little bit of omega-3, a little bit of B12, some iron, but comparatively, it's really pathetic compared to plants. Plants are bursting with medicine and life, phytonutrients, antioxidants. It fights cancer. That means it fights disease. The phytonutrients, bursting energy because it has the vitamins. The vitamins, it has enzymes. Meat does not have these things. Meat actually creates inflammation and acid in the body, bad bacteria. When you eat fruits and vegetables, it has starch and fiber, which when it sits in your stomach, the good bacteria gets created because it feeds on those undigestible fibers and creates more of itself. Did you know that you're more bacteria than you are a human? Inside your system, there's more cells of bacteria than human cells. And if you haven't researched your gut, then you're going to learn and understand that your gut flora, all the living organisms in your gut, literally create feel-good hormones for the rest of your body. They call it the second brain. That's why people have this saying, I didn't feel good about it in my gut. It's because a lot of the same neurotransmitters and brain chemicals that are created here are also created in your intestines that influence how you think. That's why they call it the second brain. Now, when you eat correctly and give your little friends the food that they want, they are enhanced, and you create a culture. You create a population of beings that are living inside you that enhance your well-being, that enhance your mind, that enhance your focus, that enhance your happiness. They literally will create more serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, anandamide. Literally, you can look up David Wolfe superfoods. He goes through 10 superfoods. Cocoa will create the right hormones that make you happy. Endorphins, feel good, happy hormones. Meat doesn't do that. So if you just look at it, don't you want to eat more of the foods that will raise you up? At the very least, just experiment. Experiment. Now, the practical application of this, you're hearing this information. Am I saying 100% you have to stop eating meat? Not at all. I did, but I did it in steps and stages. I experimented. You have to prove truth true for yourself through experience. Don't believe me. Don't believe anybody. You have to experiment. I started experimenting with meatless Mondays. I wanted to see if my strength went down in the gym. I wanted to see how I felt overall, my thinking, my clarity, if I could sit down and study without feeling tired after a meal. And what I found is I started feeling lighter, more agile. I didn't lose any strength. I felt a little bit less sore in the gym. I was eating a lot more anti-inflammatory foods. That's another thing. Ginger, boswellia, turmeric, all these things are plants. The omega-3 that any animal has, by the way, omega-3 is very healing for your body, is only because that animal ate the plants that have omega-3, like salmon and krill. They only have it because they eat the algae that has omega-3. You can eat chia seeds to get the omega-3. All the nutrients come from the plants. Ingenious pieces of technology that create life from the earth. You want to eat the things that give you life. So experiment. Start eating meals that have raw plants. Start eating a little bit less meat. See what happens. Put it to the test. If you don't, it doesn't affect me. I'm saying this because it's changed my life. And I don't want you to lose out. I want you to feel the difference. I was a weightlifter before. I was the number one person you would expect not to do this, because I was all about 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I was all about squatting more, and I really didn't want to lose my gains. I was in that mode where that was one of the most important things to me. And so I took it slowly, and I found I felt even better. And I didn't lose anything, but I gained a sense of well-being. I feel much better. It wasn't hard to give up. There's substitutions for everything. And in today's age, you can find meat substitutes, cheese substitutes, which usually aren't that healthy. I don't recommend them, but go ahead. Use them at first. There's very healthy ways to make your own of those things. And you really don't miss it. You really don't. Your body will change, and your cravings will change. Once you start giving it different food, your gut flora will literally change, alter the state of your brain, different cravings. It'll take a period of time based on where you are. But when you have the recipes that you enjoy, the salads with the right dressings, the desserts with the right sides, if you just get cocoa, put a little bit of honey, and then put mangoes in there and eat that, that's better than ice cream. I'm telling you, it's so simple. You can eat chocolate, and you can have mango chocolate. You can blend frozen bananas and make chocolate banana ice cream with mangoes, with cinnamon on top and nutmeg. You're not missing out. You are not gonna miss pizza. You're not gonna miss having a hamburger. You are gonna find that this world will not only make you feel good, but it can taste good. And you will not miss anything. I haven't had cravings for any of that junk in a very long time, because I love the way that I feel. I love the way that I think. And I also love that it's helping the environment, because, on a side note, animal agriculture is probably the number one, it's one of the most harmful forces on the planet in terms of the waste and the runoff that's creating. Billions of animals they're raising every year. That's a lot of stress on the planet. They don't have toilets or porta potties. They just poop, and it just goes into the earth and goes into the rivers and into the oceans, and it creates a mess. 10 billion. Imagine that, just a couple cows pooping everywhere. It's just too much. And it's creating a lot of problems. Not to mention, they have to feed and raise these 10 billion animals every year. They're cutting down rainforests, which is horrible. That's just, it affects everything, really. It affects the weather. It affects global warming. We need these rainforests and biodiversity. They're growing cheap food there, and they're feeding it to the animals. By the way, if they fed it to the world population, we would end world hunger many, many, many times over. So they're feeding these animals all this food. They're cutting down the rainforests. The gases that are created by these billions of cows is one of the major causes of global warming. It's horrible for the environment. And not to mention, when you're eating these animals, they're very unhealthy, very unnatural. These people who are raising these animals, they don't care about your health. They're just trying to mass produce them. So these animals have antibacterial medications, steroids, growth hormones, horrible conditions. They're not happy animals. You're eating a very diseased, unhealthy animal almost 100% of the time. That's not good. That is absolutely horrible. And if you saw inside the slaughterhouse, you would have a change of heart very fast. I really believe that. The death cries, the blood everywhere. I really believe that most people would not, if they had a choice between picking a fruit and killing a pig and having to get all bloody and hear its death scream and all the work that you have to go through to skin it and cook it, because you can't eat it in the natural environment like a real carnivore can, because you're not equipped for it. So you have to cook it to kill all the bacteria. You can't just eat a squirrel, because you're not a carnivore. You're not meant to eat it. You have to go through so much work to make sure that you don't get disease. And still people are getting disease by chickens that have some salmonella, and eggs every year. Thousands and thousands it's a big problem. But you look at vegans and vegetarians, they're living longer, and their overall so much less obese, so much less fat, and there's no such thing as a protein deficiency. That's something that everybody always brings up. There's no such thing. Nobody has protein deficiencies except for people who are malnourished and starving. You can Google it right now. Maybe 30 cases in the last year. So there really is no reason for you to start enhancing yourself today by eating more of these and replacing meat with either substitutions or with different nut and bean substitutions and recipes. I recommend eating a salad, a large salad, or a large vegetable soup, or a great vegetable smoothie. Either one of those things, the trinity of soup, salads, and smoothies, you can make fantastic, life-promoting, dare I say, life-changing recipes simply by just understanding how to make a good salad that has beans and nuts and fruits and the right spices and the right dressing and the right greens and the variety. Those 5 things. Boom. You have a filling meal that has everything. This is not rabbit food. This is gorilla food. Don't let people shame you into thinking it's not cool. Don't let people shame you into thinking it's not manly. It is cool. What's cooler than eating meat is living a good life, feeling happier every day, and not having the Grim Reaper kill you early and getting cancer. That's cool. You want to eat what your body is made for. Living according to nature is cool. Don't let society sell you what they want to sell you. We've been lied to. They just want to sell you their product. It's a huge industry. It's the second largest industry in the world. They'll tell you whatever they have to get you to buy their meat, their milk, and their dairy, which is completely unnatural and unhealthy. You're drinking the milk of a mammal that is supposed to be fed to its young, that's made to make them grow, and then you wonder why you're obese. It wasn't made for you. It was made for a baby to make it grow, and plus, it's full of mucus and extremely nasty things. Please go watch one of these documentaries. Forks Over Knives is a great one. You will have a complete insight into all these things that we covered today, and don't worry about feeling weaker. There's all kinds of professional athletes who are vegan, who only eat plants. Patrick Bamumian is a world-time strongman, vegan. So please take a look at this. It can really change your life. It's a recurring transaction that happens every single day. Every single day, you're either poisoning yourself or enhancing yourself, literally. Don't let the Grim Reaper take more time away from you by eating a wrong meal. It's so simple. Don't put poison into your body. Don't let him catch up with you on that path. Stay so far ahead from him that he loses all hope of ever catching you. Because you're running with feet like Hermes, like a god, and you can transform your body into something so strong and so solid, and you can transform your health in your body if you just eat according to nature. This can really enhance you. It's so simple, but it can really enhance you if you put the right effort and dedication and discipline and make yourself your own master so that you discipline yourself and you don't give in to those temptations to eat the wrong foods. It's no big deal if you give in every once in a while. Don't get too serious about it, but give it the right place, and you'll be so happy that you made the change. Hope this helps you.